Welcome to the Martin Bailey Photography Podcast. It's April 4, 2019, and this is episode 656. Today I'm going to share with you a conversation with Jeff Brown, who was originally a Royal Navy photographer, but perhaps more important in the context of this conversation, he's a marketing guru and expert in using LinkedIn. And we are going to have a conversation today, and literally Jeff shares a myriad of invaluable tips and tricks to help photographers make the most of the LinkedIn platform. In our conversation, we mention a number of website links, so if you want to just click on those, you can visit the blog post for this episode at mbp.ac/656. I'll also include a link to Jeff's LinkedIn profile, so if you have any questions, you can go and ask him directly or post them in the comments for the blog post, and either of us will get back to you as necessary. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Jeff Brown. So welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thank you, Martin. It's a pleasure to be on.
No, so it's a pleasure to have you on the show. I've been looking forward to this. And so we're going to jump in and talk. One of the main reasons that I'm looking forward to this is because you're obviously an expert in LinkedIn, and you have a lot of stuff that I want to know about as well, because although I use LinkedIn, I'm pretty sure I'm not using it to its full potential, and I know for a fact that you are. So I've been looking forward to this.
Fantastic.
So tell us, before we jump into more detail on LinkedIn, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and how you got interested in. I know that you were in the Navy, and you've all sorts of stuff. You've done like 750 weddings, is it?
That's right. Yeah,
a pretty amazing track record. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so basically, a condensed of my background. I joined the Royal Navy, served as an aircraft engineer for 3 years, then transferred to the photography branch, because the photography branch, you've got to have a rank to be in it. It's something you can't join. Went through a series of interviews, training to become a Navy photographer. Photographed quite a few members of the royal family in very high profile jobs.
Wow.
Then did that for a number of years. Then I was sent to work for the intelligence services, or with the intelligence services as an analyst. And during that time, I started doing a few portraits for people, because I was the only photographer on the actual base.
Yeah.
And started doing weddings on weekends. And then, to be honest, I wasn't too keen on the job, because it was all underground bunkers work. You didn't see any daylight. You didn't get out much. So I put my notice in. I decided I was going to come out. And because I'd done a few weddings, realized I could earn quite a decent amount of money doing a wedding. And so I left. And then another friend who was a Navy photographer from the same area as me, Sunderland in the United Kingdom, he left about 6 months after me. And we were both given money by the military to resettle yourself to be a civilian.
Yeah.
And instead of spending money on photography training, we spent money on marketing and learning how to market a business. And consequently, by 2008, we had 5 photography businesses, each doing a very high volume of money, being very successful. But it wasn't because we were amazing photographers, because we weren't amazing photographers. We were just standard, but we knew how to market the business. And then for a series of things, I lost £120,000 in a pub venture, which went completely wrong in 2014, moved to the countryside, and then a re-established focus on marketing, which is my training business, as an online business, because I'm in the middle of nowhere in the countryside, and it's a much better job for me than being in the studio all the time, because it works with my life. And I help photographers in about 21 different countries around the world. I've got a following of about 60,000 on social media, and it's just growing all the time.
Yeah, wow, that's a great track record and pedigree, as they say. So I'm curious. Were you on Google Plus?
I am, to be honest. I've got a Google Plus account, but I don't use it. Probably my three main platforms are Facebook, which is getting harder and harder, obviously with the organic reach. I do get a lot from YouTube, but probably my biggest platform has to be LinkedIn. I get a phenomenal amount of work from LinkedIn.
That's brilliant. So yeah, no, I was going to ask if you're sad to see Google Plus go, but if that wasn't your main platform, then obviously not. You know, I had my largest following was on Google Plus, but I think I had 50,000, 55,000 just there.
Wow.
But it's all going away, and I'm not too sad. I mean, it's just been a big spam machine for the last year or so anyway.
Yeah.
Every time you post anything on there, you get loads of porn sites and things that linked in, and you can only catch so many of them, and it became a really nasty place to be. So I'm actually quite happy that it's going away.
That's one of the exciting things about LinkedIn. I mean, I don't know if you know, but Microsoft bought LinkedIn, I think it was last year, for a phenomenal amount of money. So that's one of the reasons, you know, if you're a photographer and you're not on LinkedIn, you need to jump on, and it doesn't matter whether you do like what you do for, you know, wildlife tours and stuff like that, or you're a wedding photographer, portrait or commercial. You know, I've got clients in every single imaginable niche, even people who are ice hockey photographers, you know, so diverse, but their clients are on LinkedIn. And at the moment, there's 660 million people on LinkedIn, and it's growing massively every single day. So, you know, Microsoft wouldn't have spent that much money buying LinkedIn if they didn't see a huge future in the platform.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. But yeah, I've really not been. I've had a LinkedIn account for so many years, I can't remember. And it's always been one of those things that I've had the account, and I post a notification that I've got a new podcast out each week. And I do talk with people on there. I have a little bit of exposure through LinkedIn, but I couldn't even tell you how many followers I have. I wouldn't even know where to look. So I mean, what is it that's so special about LinkedIn? You know, especially for photographers.
Well, I think one of the key things is, first of all, the demographics of the people who are on there. So with LinkedIn, most of the people on there are high earners. So the average wage earning on LinkedIn is above $80,000 US. So you haven't got your Groupon type clients. You haven't got your freebie hunters that you get in like Facebook groups and stuff saying, you know, can you do me wedding for 200 quid? You've got people who seriously value photographers and what they do and are prepared to pay the money for it. Now you've also, and that's from a business point of view, but you've also got guys who are successful businessmen who have daughters who are getting married, who have wives who've just had babies who want photographs of babies.
Yeah.
You know, see, every conceivable client is out there. I think I told you before the interview, I'm just started working with a lady who does photography tours, but the very high end photography tours. And I says, you're a perfect client. You know, if you're a busy business person who's interested in photography, what better way to have a stress-free time away from your business?
Yeah.
Than to go on one of these, you know, photography tours, seeing the mountain gorillas or whatever. So she's marketing to people who are big money earners who can do our stuff. But the big key thing with LinkedIn, which is different than Facebook and most of the social media platforms. With Facebook, you have a Facebook page, and say you've got 10,000 people, you've got effectively about a 10,000 reach, but you're going to get between 1% and 5% organic reach of those people. So you're not, you know, you put a post out, unless that post starts getting lots of engagement, it's not going to hit a massive amount of people.
Yeah.
With LinkedIn, if you had, say, 1,000 followers on LinkedIn, now say for instance, I have 20,000 followers on LinkedIn. So if I connect with you on LinkedIn and I become your first connection, because your first connection is somebody you're connected to. A second connection is somebody who is connected to one of your first connections. So somebody who's connected to me but isn't connected to you is a second connection to you if you're followers.
Yeah.
And a third connection is somebody who's connected to that person, right?
I see. Yeah.
So if you connect to me, you've got 1,000 followers, you connect to me, and I've got 20,000 followers, and you put a post out, you have the potential to reach my 20,000 on top. Now, now this is all for free. I have never ever done LinkedIn advertising, and I shouldn't really say this, but I don't recommend clients to do it because it's expensive. So all my business and all my clients' businesses come through giving good value content and posting once a day on LinkedIn. It's not like Twitter where you're doing like 6 posts a day, just telling really good stories, posting content once a day. But I have a guy who I started working with who's a food photographer in London, Victor. I started working with him only a month ago, and he did a mini video, 20-second video of a chef doing a creme brulee and getting the blowtorch on the top. He just did this mini video, put it out. He's looking to work with big hotels and fancy restaurants. And he had a LinkedIn following of, I think, about 500 or 600.
Yeah.
Within one day, that video had 10,000 views and it started to go viral.
Wow.
I've got another guy who I'm working with in Western Australia, John Rice. You can look at his profile. He's a hospitality photographer as well. So he's working with like restaurants like Jamie Oliver's and stuff. And we only started on his LinkedIn profile 2 weeks ago. And when I do work with people, I do sort of kick the butt a bit. So I says, John, I'm out. I want to see every single day. I'm going to be going on your LinkedIn profile and checking. I want to see a post. And it's consistency. He's done it every single day for a week. Last week, posting what I told him and doing the connection process I've told him to do. And he got 17 confirmed leads. He messaged us yesterday morning to say, Jeff, you won't believe it. I have 17 confirmed leads and I've got 2 big hotels already asking how much I charge and how I can work with them.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That really is good. So what is that process? You said a moment ago about the connection process or something. Is that, I mean, obviously, if these questions are something that you only tell people that are actually signed up for your mentorships, then you don't need to tell them. But I mean, what?
Not at all. I mean, I always work on the basis that I will help anybody for free to connect with me on LinkedIn. That's how I work. I give value to people, and if they decide to work with me, then that's their decision. I never try and sell my services. One of the key things I would recommend anybody does first is niche their profile. So niche to a target audience. Don't be a freelancer and don't be a general photographer on LinkedIn. Now, say for instance, you are a general photographer, which I effectively was, but I had 5 different businesses and each one had a different reason for being that particular business. Yeah. Because you can't appeal to everybody, because if you're trying to appeal to everybody, you're actually special to nobody. So, if you have, and I think we all should as photographers have different sort of like strings to our bow sort of thing, but you can be a wedding photographer on Facebook, but you can be an architectural interior photographer on LinkedIn. And you keep both of those postings completely separate. So you're only talking wedding stuff to Facebook followers because they're female, between 24 and 38-year-old, and they're getting married and stuff. They're not going to be interested in pictures of buildings and architecture. So you've got a completely different demographics of people on LinkedIn. So what you do is you target your profile as a specialist architectural and interior photographer, and you start connecting with architects, designers, construction companies, that sort of stuff. Now, imagine you have a hotel and you're looking to get some shots done, and then you're looking for photographers and you see a specialist hotel and hospitality trade photographer, and his professional headline, that's a 120 character headline that you can use on LinkedIn, says, I help hotels book more rooms and fill their restaurants with attention grabbing imagery or something like that. So you have that photographer, or you have another photographer who takes pictures of babies, cats, dogs, weddings, whatever. Who are you going to pay or invest your money in? It's going to be the specialist. And what I say to my clients is, what you got to realize is these people have a lot of money to spend on marketing their brands. Places like the Hilton, the Marriott, all these big companies. They're not going to trust, they're not buying on price. They're buying on somebody who's the perfect fit for what they do. So because you're not going to trust your brand with some general dog's body photographer. You want somebody who's a specialist.
Is there somewhere that you actually set a specialty then, or is it just by, like for me, I'm looking at my profile now, and it says I'm a nature and wildlife photographer, and
Yeah.
then so I mean, is there anything like a special place where you, and I'm holding up my fingers for the double quotes thing here, where you niche yourself on,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
what
Well,
do you do that?
when you go to connect with somebody, so if you type in something or you see somebody on LinkedIn in the searches, the first thing you see is their photograph.
Yeah.
Then you see their name and professional headline. That's the 120 characters that LinkedIn allows you to put in. Now, most people don't do this trick. Most people will put their name, and then for the professional headline, they'll put photographer or like yourself, nature and wildlife photographer, something. So what you do is a little trick, is for your name, in your name category, first name. So if you look on mine, Jeff Brown, right? If you look on mine, you'll see my first name. What I've done is for the first name, I've put Jeff Brown. For my surname, I've put photography mentor and author. So I've used my surname to tell people what my job title is.
Oh, I see.
Now that means underneath that, I've got that 120 character professional headline where most people put their job title, photographer or freelance photographer or whatever. What you do there, the key to this bit, is you put in the benefit for the client. Now, what I do, I sell marketing for photographers. Now, most photographers don't give a toss about marketing. They're not interested. It's really boring. But most photographers want the end result, what I sell. And my end result is I'll create a fantastic brand for you and I'll help you make a lot more money, guaranteed, or I'll give you your money back that you invested on the program. So my professional headline is not marketing. My professional headline is helping photographers make a lot more money.
Okay. So
right.
I'm on LinkedIn right now and I'm searching for you. So if I put in Jeff Brown, is it not going to mess that up a little bit because you have a different surname?
No, it should come up. It should come up.
So what does it say after Jeff Brown? I can see a whole bunch of.
I actually have to nip onto my LinkedIn while I'm talking to you. I think it says photographer's mentor and author.
Okay. So that. Here we go. So I can see your avatar now. I had to, the pull down list didn't have you there, but now you're the second in that. And I see what you mean. You've got this big long name, rather than just your two, you're Jeff and Brown. So I see what you're saying.
When I go to connect with you, if you just saw me as in Jeff Brown marketer or something like that, that is the first thing you would see, and you'd probably not get interested. But if you see Jeff Brown, photographer's mentor and author, and underneath that, the photographer's mentor and LinkedIn author, guaranteed success with one-to-one photography business mentoring. So it's a bit of a mouthful, but when people see that, they're like, oh, I want a bit of this, so I'm interested in this. You know? So if you create your own, like John has done, I help photographers book more, help hotels book more rooms, fill their rooms with more guests, because that's ultimately what he does. You become very appealing, and that's how I've managed to get a following of nearly 20,000 on LinkedIn, where most people, the average on LinkedIn is about 1,000 to 2,000 max. And the funny thing is that I haven't spent any money doing this, and I haven't done any LinkedIn adverts. What happens is I've become very appealing to other photographers. And every single photographer on my program who works with me or has connected with me, I said, would you have connected with me if I was just Jeff Brown marketer? Like, no, because they're not interested in marketing, but they are interested in making money and becoming a success in the business. So you've got to make that professional headline relate to exactly what your ideal client wants.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I would be a little bit, I don't know, cautious myself about changing my second name to part of the headline. But it's, I can definitely see, looking at your profile, that it does make a lot more impact. It's I can tell. Are there any like, where was it? I think Google Plus had a thing where you could only be verified if you used your real name and things like that. Is there anything like that with LinkedIn, or they're happy for you to do this?
Well, there's like when you set up your LinkedIn account, there's like a verification process anyway, and it texts a number to your mobile phone, then you've got to verify. So that's that case, and then obviously you have your LinkedIn free account that everybody can get. I personally use a LinkedIn Premium just because of the number of connections I do on a daily basis, because it will block you out after you've done so many connections on a free account. So the free account's more like for people just, not really seriously using it or just putting their CV on there, which, people used to do about 10 years ago. But the premium account is only like, what, 50 quid a month? And I mean, I was spending 10 times that just on Facebook ads a month, and getting nowhere near the amount of return. And I've never been flagged up by LinkedIn for doing that, putting my full name into the and funny enough, it was a LinkedIn professional who I learnt that trick off. He's got like 3 times as many followers as I have.
Yeah, it definitely is food for thought. I also recall, and again, I'm sorry for sort of harping back to Google Plus. It seems like it was my favorite platform, and it really wasn't. But I remember in their terms and conditions, they had a thing where you're not actually. A lot of people did, including myself, but you weren't actually supposed to link to any kind of paid products. It wasn't a commercial platform. Is there anything like that on LinkedIn? I mean, I can't imagine so with the way that you're using it. But do they have anything like that?
No, not at all. I think the only thing with LinkedIn that the only thing with LinkedIn you got to be careful about, and this is what I tell people totally not to do, is try and use LinkedIn to sell. LinkedIn is like it's a form of social media, and I think in the past, since Christmas. So what we're in April now. I've probably only done 3 sales posts, and the sales posts are not like, come and buy this. They're very, very soft selling. LinkedIn works if you just tell stories and give people value or talk about what you've done. So instead of saying, oh, just did a shoot for this hotel or just did a shoot for this client and putting a few pictures on, tell what the client wanted, what their problem was. And how you solved it, then share some of the imagery. And to do a LinkedIn status, it's like 1,300 characters, so you don't have to do a big, huge thing. And then just put it up and once a day, or share a few images and talk about why you took them. Never put down apertures and all that sort of stuff, because that's not of interest to your ideal clients. Unless, of course, you're doing like the nature photography for tours, then people might be interested in that. Other photography. But it's really just a case of being social and being people with LinkedIn. You've got to be known first. So you've got to get out there. Then you've got to be liked, and then you've got to be trusted. And when you're known, you're liked, and you're trusted, then people will do business with you. It's surprising how many people just message me. A guy signed up with me, a guy called Greg McQueen from Copenhagen signed up with me last week. And we did a face-to-face Skype, because I always like to speak to people on Skype. He did a free call with us just to find out what I could do for him. And he went, you know what, Jeff? He says, it's finally nice to sort of meet you in person, so to speak. He says, because I feel I already really know you, because I've been watching your videos that you put on LinkedIn every single day. And what I do, I just give away loads of free tips, and I don't try and sell to people. And I think that's the thing, it be of value to people, so people will trust you. I think, wow, this guy's really, he's really looking out for us.
I mean, that's very similar to what I've been doing via my blog, and that goes out via now Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. But I mean, for the last 14 years, I've been providing value to people through my posts, and it's for me that started out just as a pure sort of a labor of love. I almost don't want to use the word labor there, but I started it just because I wanted to share my knowledge, and it turned into something that I was able to. It turned into a marketing vehicle without me really meaning to do that. But I end up, I post these. I only do that kind of post once a week because I only post a blog once a week. But I provide those sort of posts 95% of the time, but occasionally I'll release a new tour and I'll say on Facebook, okay, we're now taking bookings for Namibia 2020. And those are the sort of posts that I'm thinking of. And obviously, if that's all you ever post, then there's no value to anyone unless they want to go to Namibia in 2020. And so yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. And I'm thinking really that there is the occasional, I've just released my iOS app or something like that. I just think it can't be, as you know, from a business perspective and just from a being personable sort of perspective. I think that it obviously, if you've got people that are happy to follow you just to see what you're up to, then it's definitely something that you don't want to be doing all the time, or you just scare people away.
Yeah. And I think one of the, like what I've learned is I offer to do these free calls or assessments or people messages, and I reply through LinkedIn voice messaging, which is really effective. But what happens is, people will jump on a call and I'll spend half an hour, do a free call, tell them how they can improve the business. And a lot of them are shocked by the fact that at the end of the call, I'll be, well, is there anything else you like? And they'll say, oh, well, you're not going to tell us about your program. I said, well, I'll send you some information. I'll tell you a bit about it. And then if you want to join up, just let us know.
Yeah.
And because what they're doing is they're expecting to be sold to. And I said, that's not the way I work.
Yeah.
Now, I find that works fantastically too, is first of all, I've had a chance to prove myself to these people of how good I am at what I do. And secondly, even if they decide they don't want to sign up or they can't afford to come on the program at the moment, it's not a priority, those people will continue to like and share everything I publish on LinkedIn because they trust me and they found value in what I do. They became my like ambassadors sort of thing, and that's how, and I think if you give real value to people and you become, I think the key for being on LinkedIn is just to be yourself.
Yeah.
Don't, especially if you're doing videos, putting a video out there, if you're doing a camera to the mobile phone to yourself sort of thing, and you're talking to people. And I've put ones out there where right at the very end, I've made a mistake and I've just gone, oh well, anyway, hope you enjoy it anyway, and put it out because it's just me.
It's
I'm not trying to be anybody. Yeah.
No, I'm actually pretty happy with a lot of the stuff I'm hearing here because there are things like that. I spend, depending on what I'm doing and how much time I have, I can spend anything from 10 minutes to a couple of hours every day responding to questions and things that I get from people. And a lot of the time, I think over the last 4 or 5 years, I've maybe said twice to someone, we've been going back and forth for a number of hours now. We really should start talk about you getting on a paid consultation session. But the majority of the time, I'll just reply. I never try to sell them the consultation because it's just, I know that I wouldn't like that to be done to me. I do think that there comes a point when you have to start talking about money, but I think it's in this situation, just building the trust is, and that's really a big part of what I've done with my blog and podcast as well. I forget who was it. I was on a round table a number of years ago with Frederick Van Johnson, a friend of mine, does the This Week in Photo podcast, and he invited me onto a round table at one of the big expos in the US. I forget exactly which one it was as well. And there was someone there who we'd not met. I obviously know who this person was, but Frederick said, "Have you met Martin?" And he said, "No, but I know of him. Everybody knows that Martin means quality, and he's got a lot of followers that really trust what he says." And so that to me was golden. That was really worth a lot because it shows that I've been able to build an audience that does trust me, and not only trust me, but will talk about me to other people, so that this guy also had heard about me through that. And I think so. The reason I'm saying this is because you kind of, I was obviously hoping to get something from this chat myself as well as the value for my audience. But some of the things that you're saying are sort of clicking. I think I'm doing a certain amount right without even really having thought too much about it.
Well, I think one of the key things is what I call the connection process. And it's funny enough, I get people sort of take the mickey out of us, but I relate this to Tinder, because recently I was single, became single a couple of years ago, and you wouldn't go on Tinder and swipe and connect with somebody and then say, do you want to get married? You need to build that relationship up. You can't just dive straight in. Unfortunately, a lot of people do that on LinkedIn, and you get a lot of people, especially from India, who do the photo editing. They'll connect with you, then when straight away, please buy, we do special price, all that sort of stuff. If they took the time to build a relationship, then I might be interested. But when people just spam you straight in, so what photographers do, they'll either do that sort of approach, or they'll say a very weak approach. Oh, hi, I'd love to connect. If you ever need any photography doing, check out my website. Again, that's really weak. So what I do is I tell my photographers, so obviously think about what niche you're in, and then connect with. So you do your LinkedIn search to connect with people within that particular industry. So you're searching for people within that particular industry. So say, for instance, you do photography for real estate or estate agents, trying to help them sell their top end properties.
Yeah.
So you would connect with them, say, hi, I'd love to connect. You've got 300 characters to use in your connection message. So never connect with anybody without adding a connection message. And this 300 character, obviously say hi, and then make sure you use the first name because you want to be personal. You're building a relationship. And the next thing is you tell them what benefit they're going to get connecting with you. So you don't try and sell. You say, hi, just love to, I work with real estaters, or I work with estate agents just like yourself, and I help them sell their properties quicker and faster with high impact, attention grabbing imagery. I've got a great little brochure I'd love to send you, which will give you some free tips and advice on how to use your social media. So you send that off to them. Then I tell all my clients, when they come on the program, we go through creating these free products. And I've got a designer in Indonesia who does these amazing brochures and stuff like that for like £30, but they're fantastically designed. And what we do is we put packs together, depending on what the niche is, to give somebody something for free that is benefit to them. So once you've established and that person has been good enough to connect with you, because you said in that connection message there's something in it for them, then you follow that up saying, oh, great, it's fantastic to connect. Like I said, then you put a bit more information about what you do, not what you do as in making photographs. What you do is the solution. You help them sell more properties because that's what they want. They don't just want pretty photographs. They basically want the houses to sell quick. Yeah. So you tell them how they do that. By finding having a consultation, come around, you do this, you do drone, you do elevated, you do interiors, 360. So you mentioned some of this stuff. You never put any prices in whatsoever, and you never try and sell. You just give this free guide. Say, I've got this free guide. It could really help you, even if you're just doing the photographs yourself. So you might put a guide together, how to take much better photographs, interior photographs of properties. You put a load of advice in it. At the end of the day, that advice, if they do it themselves, it's still going to be nowhere near as good as what you can do. That's, like I give my marketing advice out. Are people going to implement it? They might not. Probably not, because they'll read it. And then that's why a lot of people jump on the program, because they go, well, to be honest, yes, you give us all the advice, but I probably wouldn't do it myself. I can't be bothered. I need somebody to kick me backside. So you give somebody something for free. And then what happens is, and as John Rice has found this week doing that, last week doing all those connections on LinkedIn and sending out this free guide to hotels on how to get more engagement on social media with the images they take themselves, is that when you send this guide for free and you've took the time to really help people who you're connecting with, and these messages are all scripted, so you're not spending hours on each message. what happens then is the people feel, oh, hang on a minute, I've got to give him something back because he's given me all this and I haven't. So that's why he's had 17 leads and 2 or 3 people wanting to book him in the first week, because he's gone down this process. And then they say, well, so the next stage is to have a taster. So you have a taster package. So your taster package might be a fraction, maybe 10% or 20% of your whole package. So if you have a full hotel branding package and it's £1,500, you could say to the hotel, well, right, I do a taster package for £150. And what it is, it gives you a chance to really see the value of my services. And if you love the taster package that much and then decide to go on to book the big package, I will take the cost of the taster package off the big package.
Yeah, I've done that as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a limited risk. And then what happens is, you say, for instance, your taster package includes 10 attention graphic images for the hotel. What you do is you deliver them 12 or 14 images and a nice panoramic banner image for the Facebook page. So you over deliver them, you impress them, you give them more than they expect. So they go, wow, this is fantastic. And remember that, once you get in with these people, it doesn't just stop there. You have repeat business packages, offer them discounts so that, they're coming back to you time and time again. And because it's very hard if you're selling photography packages, and you can even do this with weddings as well, like trial engagement shoots, so they get a chance to see who you are and work with you. It's very hard for somebody who's never met you face to face before to go from a connection to spending £2,000. You've got to give them little stepping stones for a chance. You've got to bring down the barriers for a chance for them to do business with you and realize how awesome and amazing you are at what you do, and then start spending the big money.
It's all great information. I actually wish I was still doing a lot of commercial photography, because I'd be all over this. But unfortunately, I have here in Japan, I really have pulled back on a lot of that. My main thing now is the tours and the education, and so for me it's not going to be, I'm not going to be rushing out trying to market my photography services. But this is golden for anyone that is. And so
I think that that a lot of people fall into the trap, and that's why I give so much advice away for free, because when I first started out, I remember coming out of the Navy, I'd never photographed a wedding. So my first wedding was for free. And my second wedding was actually for free as well, because I had to get something to get to a portfolio, because all I'd photographed was ships and Marines and people running around with guns,
And the royal family, you were telling me.
Yeah, the royal family. So it's like, I had to start somewhere, and there's so many photographers starting up who were way better photographers than me, really, really skilled, amazing photographers, and they're getting nothing. They're getting, or if they are getting something, they're getting people, well, I want it for 200 quid. The Groupon type people who want anything for nothing. And that really pees me off, because these are talented people. But if you can market your services to a niche, so you're not selling on price. And the other good thing is, if you sell on a solution, or if you sell on an outcome for the client, and you're the perfect fit for your ideal client, so you're not a general photographer, you're a specialist on different platforms, going back to why I had 5 different businesses, is the good thing is these people are not going to book you on price alone. And you elevate yourself to a more premium level. Now, currently at the moment, every man and his dog who's become a photographer goes in at the bottom level. They start off as generalists as well. And then all that people at that level can compare you with, because you're not specialist with anything, is price. So if somebody's doing something for 500, you're not saying, I can do this for you, I'm really impressive, I deal with your needs specifically. You're saying, I'm a photographer and just take pictures. And they'll say, well, this guy's a photographer, he can take pictures, but for 400 quid. And then they'll come back and you'll say, well, I'll do it for 350. And then somebody else in this pond will say, well, I'll do it for 300. So it's a pond where all the fishes are battling against price. You elevate yourself to the bigger pond where the big fish are, right? There's maybe 20 of these in comparison to 5,000 cheaper photographers, right? But yes, there's fewer clients, but the clients there in relationship, there's actually more clients to photographers in the premium area, and the clients are not saying, how cheap can you do it for? The clients are saying, what can you do for my brand? How can you make my brand? The price isn't, it's surprising how often price doesn't come into it.
Yeah.
And the other good thing is,
a
lot of big companies now, every big company is on social media.
Yeah.
And especially things like the hospitality trade and architecture and stuff like that. It's visual, they want images, and these people don't want crappy images. They want images that's going to promote their already prestigious or esteemed brand.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was going to say there, again, this is all sort of ringing true to me in on a different level in that when I first started my photography tours and workshops in 2008, so 12 years ago now, I didn't compare, I still don't compare my prices to other people that were doing similar workshops. And it turns out that they were actually a little bit on the cheap side. And for the first couple of tours that I did, I was attracting relatively cheap customers. Obviously, not all of them. Some of the people that joined my first tours were amazing people, but some of them were a little bit like, on the cheap side. And they were the ones that were hard to work with. It was really difficult to please them because they wanted everything for nothing. And then as I realized that, even my customers were telling me, and they still do, some of them telling me that I should charge more. So I increased the price. And the next thing I know is, instead of traveling with cheap people that complain about everything, I was traveling with top professionals, business owners, and it became such a pleasure to travel with them.
Totally.
So
totally.
it's exactly the same sort of thing. I'm enjoying this because it's affirming a lot of the stuff that I'm already doing. But I know as well that if I was out there trying to sell my services as a photographer, at which I do know that a lot of the audience are, then this is really good stuff for them as well. So,
but what I tell to a lot of my clients and I tell them off, I said, like, when you join my program, you are going to get your ass kicked because I want results, and I'm not going to work with people and just take their money and think, oh, well, if they fall off the program and they don't complete it, I'm not bothered. I've got all their money. It's not like that. I want people. I love it when people come back to us and go, Jeff, I've just, I had a guy the other week who he's an event photographer and he charged $500 for an event, and we repackaged everything and we put his event out, same event out at $3,000.
Yeah.
And then Jeff, I've just booked my first one at $2,800. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
But what I tell a lot of my clients to do, and some of them keep coming back, because especially if they've been, I like it when I work with new photographers who've been maybe in management or something like that, and because they're a little bit more driven on the marketing side. If you've got a photographer who's been in the trade maybe 5 or 10 years, it's hard to change their mindset. So that's why I've got to, I'm constantly kicking the backside, and I'm saying, and one of the big things that when they're trying to create a premium brand, oh, well, I've just been searching, there's a new photographer in there, even he's doing this for that. Oh, there's another guy, he started up, he's selling weddings for 200 quid. And I say, right, stop now. I don't want to hear about you looking at another photographer in the area ever again. So what you got to do is you got to pick 2 photographers to look at. One is the top of the range regionally. So, it might be in a state or a county or the next state or county. And this guy is the top guy. And the other one is nationally. So look at in your particular niche, the best wedding photographer in the whole of the United Kingdom, or the best property photographer in the whole of New York, and then also in America as well. And I said, look at these 2 people, follow their social media news feeds, follow them on LinkedIn, and look at their websites, because these people once, 2 or 3 years ago, 10 years ago, were doing jobs for free. We're in the same position as you. Now, the good thing about being in this position and looking at them is you and learning about marketing is you'll eventually start to think, hang on a minute, he's not doing this, he's not doing that. I could offer this, I could offer that. So you then become focused on not following this person, kicking this person's ass, sort of thing. You're gonna get to there, and everybody has the same capability. I become very successful with 5 photography businesses, but 90% of my clients are better photographers than I am. But I could just market it better, right?
Yeah.
So and I tell that to people, and because what happens is the more you look at this sort of stuff, the more it unnerves you, and it's putting you out of the success mindset and into the mindset of negativity and how am I going to manage when there's so many other people doing this? Don't care about them. There's so many photographer marketers out there and mentors. I'm looking at 3 now who are very, very successful, international, who charge one hell of a lot more than I do. And I don't think they give as personal services I do. But I watch them and I'm thinking, give me till the end of 2020, I'm going to be above you. And that's where I want to be, but I want to continually offer value. But I'm not looking at anybody else, because otherwise I'll be changing my direction to suit other people. Go with what you believe in,
It can be paralyzing to compare yourself to too many people. I'm terrible in that I don't compare myself probably even enough. But I do have, I completely understand what you're saying about just finding the few, the couple of people that are at the top, and see what they're doing. But yeah, my wife often asks, who do I compare myself to? And I'm like, nobody really. For me, it's me doing as much and as good a job as I can at what I'm doing. It's like people, I often say that I really don't care what people think of my images, because I shoot them first and foremost for myself. And I think that pleasing yourself with photography is one of the main things to shoot for. But then, of course, it doesn't mean that you can completely ignore the rest of the photography on the planet, because you need to know what other people are doing. But I don't think you necessarily need to try to emulate everyone else, because you don't develop your own sense of originality if you do that. And so I definitely I don't look at other people's work like a lot of people do. But it's this is all really, really good recommendations and information for people to be getting along. And LinkedIn, I must admit, I'd never really thought of it as being the platform. I always thought of LinkedIn as the place where I would get an IT job again if I decided that I couldn't, make enough money doing photography or photography related business. I was thinking, LinkedIn will maybe be the place I'll get a job at Apple or something like that. But I have, of course, every time I get a connection request, I check what that person's doing. I have to admit, I've started to reject the clipping, Photoshop clipping services and things like that, because they just spam you straight away. So if I see that I'm a professional Photoshop clipping person, I generally won't accept those anymore. But I did want to ask, every time I log on to, or every time I do accept a connection, LinkedIn asks me if I want to go through my address book and try to connect with and check to see who I want to connect with. Do you, or did you do that at any point? And do you recommend people do that? Like just sort of try to blast out to pretty much everyone that you know?
Well, what I do is I do it by, first of all, I accept any connection of anybody other than, like yourself, the clipping path people, because I don't like their style and the way they try and sell. But I accept connections of other marketers, because it's surprising how many people who maybe work in a marketing trade but are keen photographers and want to get out and then run their own business. Sort of thing, you know?
Oh, yeah, I do too.
So I pretty much accept a connection of anybody. But my connection process, obviously, it's different for me in what I do, because I'm pretty much international. I've got clients in 21 different countries.
Mm.
But what I do is I'll focus on one particular area or element and connect with that. So say, for instance, I'll try and use, funny enough, I've got a client who did really, really successful. He's actually in my book, Fabrizio, and he's from Switzerland. Now, his niche was so niche. At first, I thought, I don't know how well we're going to get the results here. But he is an ice hockey photographer. So there's not many ice hockey, well, especially in Britain. But what he does is he follows all the big ice hockey teams, and he was an IT guy. So I said, right, what you need to do is you need to start connecting with all the big ice hockey teams. Starting with your initial, so say for instance you're in a particular city, you start with that particular city, then you move out to the next city. So you'll do a search, and your search would be ice hockey, connected with anybody in ice hockey in this particular city. So say for instance the city could be New York or London or Paris or whatever. Then you would next look so that you'd spend a week connecting with these people. Then the following week, you'd move out to another city. So you expand in your radius or your town of people within that particular niche. Now, this guy did absolutely phenomenal because we started on the ice hockey teams. Then he started to go with the sponsors for ice hockey. And anyway, he ended up bagging the equivalent of Manchester United in the ice hockey world. So the top ice hockey team, he became their photographer. Then he started, they were sponsored, or one of their sponsor connections was Tag, Tag watches.
Yeah.
And they approached him and says, can you do some product work for him? So he ended up in with Tag. And then from Tag, he ended up going to Italy to do Formula One stuff.
Oh,
and this
brilliant.
was all in the series of about 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
But just by going niche, aiming at a target audience in his area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
And that's probably the best way, go and personalize your message so it relates to those people. So, I specialize in ice hockey photography. I help ice hockey teams get more coverage, build their brand, increase their PR, that sort of stuff.
Excellent.
And that's the best way to do your search, So start, and what you've got to do as well is, I've got a lot of headshot photographers because that's becoming really popular, headshots and personal branding. And as you start really niche with that, but then you would aim, say for instance, you aimed at a particular big company. So I've got a guy who I'm working with in Texas, and he says, I didn't realize, but Texas is a bit like the second Silicon Valley. There's lots and lots of different tech brands there. Yeah. So we go in, we niched his profile down at aiming at the tech, the IT industry. So he's going for likes of Google, YouTube, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So he does the connections, but he's doing the connections to offer him personal branding and headshots. And I says, but once you get in there, right, and you've done a couple of headshots and you've over-delivered and you've exceeded what you're supposed to do, and they're really, really impressed with you, then you can take the next avenue and go, well, I've been doing your headshots and I've just been looking on your website. I've noticed you're using a lot of stock imagery of people at work, people on their computers, and women on the phones. I also do people at workshops and PR photography. What about I come in and we get all these new pictures sorted out for your website?
Yeah.
And then, once you build this relationship up with a client, you start by offering them something niche, and then you become the only photographer they'll ever think about, because every time you do something for them, you give them that little bit more. So you say, I'll give you 50 images, you give them 60. You know in your mind you're going to do that anyway.
Yeah.
You tell them that the pictures will be ready in 7 days and you deliver them in 2.
Yeah.
They're just, every time they're really impressed with you. Eventually, this company says, we're having a golf day. We're taking all our sponsors and clients out. Oh, I actually do event photography as well. Oh, right. Well, we'll have you. We didn't know you did that. So you're always, you become the only photographer they'll ever think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the best way to do it. Build amazing relationships with brands and companies.
Yeah. Excellent stuff, Jeff. This is one of those conversations that I think people will be coming back to and re-listening to a number of times. I know that you don't like to sell your stuff, but I've got to, for the sake of the audience, you mentioned that you wrote a book about LinkedIn. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's just basically it's my it's a photographer's guide on how to use LinkedIn. Now, if you use this book, and then obviously connect with me as well on LinkedIn, I'd be happy. I'd love to speak to people. The book's called The Photographer's Missing Link. It's just a self-published book on Amazon, so you can just sort it on Amazon, and it will take you through how to do your profile, how to do these connection messages. And then I'm actually currently rewriting it. It's going to be going out again, probably the end of May, because I myself have just joined a program, and I'm working with one of the top LinkedIn guys in the entire world. Because I know if I want to be the best photography mentor by the end of 2020, I've got to a certain level, but I've got to be somebody who's really, 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 7-figure successful on LinkedIn, and I've got to know because I've read nearly every single book there is on LinkedIn and listened to every audio book. So I think the first stage is people obviously check out the book, connect with me. I'll be happy to send them out the full brochure of what I do. And I've also got a private group called the Awesome Photographers Group. It's on Facebook. Now, it's a paid entry group. It's 29 quid to join, then you pay a monthly fee. But I can only accept people depending on what they do and where they're located, because one of the key things about the group is that I want my members to be able to help each other as much as they can. So I would only have 3 photographers in New York, but one might be a wedding, one might be a portrait, one might be a big commercial, because I want people to give their tips as well and share their success freely, knowing that their competitor down the road isn't in the group to pinch it.
Got it. So where can people actually go to? I mean, I know obviously I'll put some links into the show notes for this episode, and that'll be at mbp.ac/656. But is there just a URL that people can go to your website or something like that, just that we can call out now?
Well, the website is www.focusonmarketing.co.uk. Okay. And then the group is if you just type in the Awesome Photography Group on Facebook.
Okay, excellent. Well, I will link to those from the podcast show notes or the blog post anyway. But that's great. And we are just coming up to an hour, so I don't want to keep you much longer. Is there anything else, sort of last message that you'd like to give out to the listeners?
Well, I think if you're going to try LinkedIn, and this is what I did with my group in the beginning of January, New Year started off, and I says, right, I'm gonna kick your butts again. This is from the 2nd of January. All I wanted them to do was post one piece of content, not selling, one piece of valuable content every single day for 30 days. So that includes Saturdays and Sundays. So before you sort of you get your profile done first, follow the book or the steps, or contact with me. I'm happy to give you some free advice. And then just be consistency. That you're not going to post one bit of content and get loads of clients and then go, oh, can I be bothered? That's not going to happen. So you've got to, if you want the results, it's got to be once a day. And I said, for most people, social media is a bit of a, photographers jump on and enjoy editing photographs and spend half the day doing it. And I said, you've got to train yourself to get up in the morning. It's literally only 15, 20 minutes. Write a post, stick the post out there, make a few connections, then start editing your pictures. Do the stuff that's going to bring you results. And do it every single day. And then, give it like John did last week. 7 days, he got 17 leads. I mean, that's not going to happen for everybody. It depends on your particular niche. But I would say, give it 30 days, you're going to start seeing massive returns. And it's free. It's a free platform. You're not going to have to do adverts. In fact, I'd recommend you do not do adverts.
That's that mentality there, though, that you just said. I mean, that's something that is so important. I remember reading a book a number of years ago called Eat That Frog. And have you read that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically, you get to work and you've got this ugly frog on your desk and you've got to eat it. And it's
funny thing. I've just done that before this interview.
Yeah.
At 5 o'clock, I was away climbing a mountain at the weekend. I'm approaching 50, ex-forces. I used to be fit, but I'm getting a bit of a tummy. And I said, right, that's it. I need to kick me backside. I need to get out there running. God, the past 3 days, it's the first time I've run in about 2 years. And Monday, I come back and, oh my God, I looked in such a state. Tuesday, I was slightly better. This morning, it was snowing this morning at 5 o'clock in the morning in the UK. And I got out there and I did 5K, which is pretty crap. But, by the end of the month, I'm probably going to be up to 10K. I'm not going to go for nothing I've just got to do it. If I want the results, get out of bed, do it. It's done. I've got it done. Yeah. And I'll do it again tomorrow.
Brilliant.
And it becomes easier. It becomes easier, and you also start to get the rewards.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, really, thanks so much, Jeff. It's been a pleasure talking with you today, and I know that a good majority of the audience are going to really enjoy this and find it very useful. So thanks so much for spending your a good hour with us today, and
that's totally fine.
Yeah, I hope we get a chance to catch up again at some time.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Martin, and thanks to everybody for listening.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Jeff Brown. Thanks very much for listening today. If you do enjoy this podcast, please share a link with your friends. Subscribe in iTunes or your favorite podcast program to ensure uninterrupted delivery. If you have a moment to rate the podcast or leave us a review in iTunes, that helps to keep us relevant in the huge number of podcasts out there now. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and links to everything that I'm up to are at martinbaileyphotography.com, so do drop by and take a look. I'll be back next week with another episode, but in the meantime, you take care and have a great week, whatever you're doing. Bye-bye.